Hey guys, I'm MeeMee and I'm dying of a cold, so I do apologise if I sound very nasally and a bit hoarse. So a couple of things to start off with. First off, I am so sorry about my hands. If they look blue, I have very poor blood circulation and my dermatitis is extremely bad. I was outside for an extra 2 hours in freezing temperatures and my hands just split. But thankfully they're not too bad today, so that should be okay. Secondly, this is meant to be November's box, but there's been a very slight issue with this. When I received the box, I opened it and the sweet inside, which was like a toffee, it somehow managed to melt and it got all over the supplies. It made everything super sticky, and upon further investigation of the supplies, so unfortunately I can't use the November box. But what I am going to do is go back in time to October's. So this is the most recent box that I have, and so let's jump straight into it. So first off, we have this multimedia sketch pad in a very rectangular shape, which we don't see that often in these boxes. So it's 160 GSM, smooth white paper with 10 sheets. It feels pretty much like cartridge paper, so interesting to know what we're going to get with that. And this is the featured artist work, and also again, I'm sorry camera is at an angle, and there's the featured artist, Erica's Chesnois, I think. I am so sorry. And there's some information if you'd like to see some more. So far, I'm actually really loving this pastel muted scheme. And of course, the box isn't complete without a scroll zine, which has hints, tips, and more about the featured artist. And also as well, I actually forgot to mention in my last video as well that Scrawlrbox is a not subscription box here in the UK. You get into mystery items, you get a prompt, and you make something with it. Not sponsored, not affiliated. Alright, and now on to the main attraction. And I can tell you now, there's a lot of big loose stuff in there. Take that as you will. Oh ho ho! Ooh, I like this. So we've got our scroll sticker, which I really do love the colours of. And our destruction list, which we will take a glance at later. Okay, so without picking them all up, we have whatever these are. So we have Marabou Yono, I think it is, and it looks like they're acrylic markers. And if you use Posca markers, these are pretty much the exact same thing. And that's what the nib size is like. Now, I have tried Marabou permanent markers and I think alcohol markers before, and yeah, they're alright. Not really my kind of thing. So I'm quite interested to see what their acrylic markers are like. So we have 6 of these, and we have them in pink, purple, blue, white, grey and green. And last but not least, we have this Pentel permanent marker, my favourite, because we all know that this is going to get all over my skin. It's suitable for most surfaces and not much else to go on. So I'm assuming that this is black. I mean, there's not much else giving it away. And that's what the nib looks like, if you can see in this god-awful lighting. And off screen you can't see it because I am now terrified of picking any of the sweets up just in case. It's a Swizzle's Tropical Fizz Chew Bar with fizzy sherbet centre, and I absolutely love anything super sour, so I'm so excited to try this out. And I am actually a little bit weirded out at the fact that there are minions on it, and I'm not exactly a huge fan of minions. So I have to admit that this is like really cool, but it's also really weird as well, because normally we get pencils. No matter what we get, we always get a pencil, but the fact that we've got paint markers to work from, and only paint markers, it looks like I'm going really abstract with this, you know, whatever the prompt is. So I'm going to prep these and I will get back to you. That I have prepped all of the pens, which took like 10 minutes. My arms are hurting, but that's preparing paint pens for you. doing 6 is not as bad as doing at least 30 Posca pens all at once. And let's give these pens a try and see exactly what we're getting. Alright, so let's see what shade of crappy green this is. Ooh, that's actually quite nice. I don't know if it's coming up on camera properly, but that is like a sage green. And as far as I'm aware, it's not that far off from the cap. And of course you can see because my shadow's in the way. And I'm actually quite impressed with the colour selection and how beautiful these colours are. So we've got like a sage green, like a mid-sky blue, a coral, like a lavender, a grey, and I don't know if you can see, but there's a white there. But hopefully that's going to show up a bit more when I try out this black pen. Alright, let's see how opaque these are. And it's actually quite opaque. Might need a couple of layers if I really wanted opaque. Okay, so I just tried a couple of colours. I had to see the white properly, and it is a little bit transparent, but another layer on top and it should be okay. And it looks like the colours will work perfectly fine on top of the black. And on this paper alone, you can only do like a single pass on this because I went over it again with the blue and it instantly started ripping up the paper. So when I actually do my piece, I have to be really mindful about that. But so far, I'm quite impressed. And flipping it over, you can actually see that the black is ghosting through like pretty badly, especially from where I started and stopped. So I will have to make sure that I've got something underneath it so it doesn't get onto my table, because it is a permanent marker and I don't want it permanently on my table. So now I can see exactly what I've got, and let's see what the prompt is. And the prompt is things with wings. Now, of course, the first thing that I thought of is birds, but I want to try and do something a bit different and see what I can find online. So I'm going to bugger off for a couple of hours, rest up, do some research, and I will get back to you. Okay, so this is what I came up with. I have no idea where I came up with the idea now, but I got the idea from somewhere of like animals with wings. So because of the colours that I got, the first thing that I thought of was a raccoon. But because the markers have such a broad tip, I didn't want to squeeze everything onto one paper, so what I decided to do, which I have done before actually, is I just taped together then like 3 sheets just so I had that broader canvas to work with. And also as well, I needed like big shapes for me to work off. What to normally do is then to use a supply and really adapt my style to it. So if it's like a broad nib, I'll do something really cartoony, and that's what we've got here. And as you can see, it is a sketch and we do not have a pencil, but technically I haven't cheated, because these supplies that I'm using are actually from previous scroll boxes, so technically I'm not cheating. And mind you, it was actually a really huge help as well, I'm not going to lie. And that said, I've come up with the colour scheme. It's something that I have never really done before, but I am looking forward to doing it, so let's jump into it. Okay, so I've just got some, like a piece of scrap paper underneath, and just so I don't draw on the table with these, especially with the permanent marker. So let's go. And as always, permanent markers stink. There's really no rhyme or reason with these colours. I actually quite like the little test that I did. And like you can see, this main middle part here is going to be like the actual colours of the raccoon. And then the other 2 panels are going to be a bit more abstract, inverted. You'll see what I mean. And I do know that I could have used the white of the paper for this. Or maybe I should have actually, but it's too late now. It's getting a lot of streakiness from this one. I was actually watching a video once and I can't remember which one it was, but they gave some really good information about how to actually use paint markers on paper and like this if you know, you want to use it on paper or on like any porous surface. And that's to lay down some like gesso first, or some kind of a primer, which I thought was a really good idea. But since this is a scroll box and I have to use what I've got, you know, and extras if need be from other scroll boxes, I'm giving myself that. You know, I can't exactly prime this, so I'm just gonna have to make do. And this body in the next one over, it's going to look very, very strange. And so far I'm happy with the way it's coming out. It's just this giant part. I think maybe working on a larger surface was a very, very bad idea, because these pens then just drying out really, really quickly and, you know, becoming very, very streaky, and to have to keep stopping and, you know, shaking every 5 seconds. You know, that would have been like a complete duh moment, but I don't generally think about these things straight off, because I don't really use these that often, so I don't know like the limitations. And again, I don't think then to using it on paper helps, because with the paper pilling, as soon as you put the paint down, that's when all of the problems start happening. You know, the paper just starts getting jammed right into the nib. Well, that was extremely painful to do. I am going to let that dry fully and I'll go back in later and try and fill in all of these streaky spots. Okay, now this is where it's going to get very weird very fast. See what I mean? I mean, when was the last time that you saw a green raccoon? And then again, when was the last time you saw a blue hedgehog in real life? I mean, some colours are working out a lot better than others. And the pink's going down fine, but this green is like one of the worst. I also do know that on the other one I did do in like the fur around the head and the body the same colour, and this one is like green and blue. I just really wanted to like really spice it up, you know, really make it super weird. Okay, so it's the next day and I have actually just found a problem with this, and that is actually the paper itself. It's warped very badly, and that is to be expected because we are working with the wet medium on practically like sketch paper, so this is going to be really fun to try and flatten out later. But other than that and the really bad pilling, especially, I don't know if you can see around here on the green, it has pilled up like really badly. But other than that, I'm enjoying it and I'm going to carry on. Also as well, I want to try and avoid using like any solid black on the front and back pieces. But I will be doing like an outline later on, which will be the only black. I just don't want like any solid black pieces. So let's carry on. Ooh, just had a bit of an explosion there, and I kind of wish that it happened with the grey. I also have to admit as well, I really do love using like any kind of markers, because it means that I get these pieces done a lot faster. And I don't know what it is as well, but this green just feels like a normal like marker instead of an acrylic marker. You know, and I think it's like the green and the purple then just don't feel like they're acrylic markers, because it's not streaking as much as like the blue or like the white. other grades, so I really don't know what's happening there. Ooh, talking about big explosions, there's a beauty. I've never had explosions with any paint pen until now, and honestly I am living for it for what I need to do. And then didn't realise that I was out of shot, but that's the front piece done. And even though then to do have a lot of acrylic markers, there are some brands that do more colours than others. I can know for a fact that I won't be able to get this colour in a Posca marker, so I think it's really handy to have like different like brands. There's another, there's like a pilot one that you can get skin tones, and I know for a fact I do not have a skin tone in any of the markers I have, but I would actually love to see this green on a different surface than this paper. And for some strange reason now it's decided to work like a paint marker. I mean, I don't know if you can see the difference between just that area and there. In fact, over here, you know, it's acting more like a paint marker than it is there, so I wonder what's happened. I mean, I've prepped it as much as the other ones, I've used it quite a bit, but now it's just decided to act like a paint marker. But unfortunately I'm not going to risk going back into the other ones, because no matter what, I will rip a hole in the paper. I'm also noticing as well, then the more I do this and try and pump out the paint, the more explosions I'm getting. And I do actually feel like I've really overdone it with the colours over here, especially with the tail. I should have left that grey one out and have like more white to it. Right, so that's all I need to do now is do all of the white areas, but I'm going to do that off camera and spare you the agony. It is actually currently Christmas Eve, so what perfect way to finish this off and enjoy my day tomorrow. So everything is dry. I did the best that I could to lie these flat, but they just will not lie flat whatsoever. So, you know, as you can see, there's like a bit of a huge gap. That's how bad the warping is, but again, it's the wrong type of paper to be using on wet mediums. So anyway, I'm going to go in with the black marker and do all of the outlines, and then after that just finish off adding little details and we'll be finished. And I did actually go in off camera and fill in some of the other bits. I went back in on the grey just to try and fill it out, and had a big massive explosion of paint, which was brilliant. And this black does not seem to want to work on this paint. And I did deliberately not go back over the green on the purple, where I found the most problems trying to get the paint out. Simply because, as I mentioned before, I just did not want to risk ripping up the paper even more. I really don't know if there was like a right or wrong way of doing this. I get the feeling that I should have really put the marker down first and then put the paint on top. Doing that, it would mean that I would have like very uneven lines. So I'm having like an opposite problem with this permanent marker, because whereas I kept clogging up in the paint markers with the paper, with this pen I'm clogging up with paint, and I'm getting like the most ugliest unclean lines possible. And I'm also glad that you can see what I'm hearing, because this is just squeaking. You know, like how you run a knife and fork across a plate? That's pretty much what it sounds like. Maybe what I think I should have really done is leave a gap, you know, like between the sections. The pen would have something to grip onto, you know, like the outside edges here. Again, you live and learn. Well, you're going to learn from me, you know, what not to do. And don't be a MeeMee. Right, so then the outline finally done, I hope, anyway. So now I'm just going to do the very last details and then I will be done. So for that I'm going to use this pen and I'm just going to very awfully put in like indications of fur. Right, that's it, I'm throwing that pen out. And I've also just realised as well how bad the eyes look. I have no idea what on earth happened. Oh jeez, never mind. Right, so for these ones I'm just going to do, you know, colours, that's a thing that will suit on top. So I think for definite I am going to take all of these nibs out and give them a good soak. You know, because I'm ripping them all of the paper and even all of the paint that's already down, and it just doesn't look nice at all. And these fur choices are a choice, and of course it works perfectly on the black. Alright, and there you have it, that's October's box. Now, as you've heard from me all throughout, as much as I really enjoyed this with big bold colours and the simplicity of it all, for me personally, because of the way how I went about it, I found it extremely difficult to use any of the supplies in conjunction with each other. You know, I found it very hard to use the paint pens and the permanent marker together, but also as well, except for the permanent marker, and the paint pens do not work well on this paper whatsoever, and I now have 6 damaged nibs and I really need to soak in water and try and revive the best that I can. But other than that, the supplies themselves were absolutely amazing to work with. Paint pens, cannot fault them. They were beautiful to work with. I loved how thick the nibs were, and the colours are really beautiful, and they work exactly like a Posca. So I'm definitely going to be keeping these after I revive them. Permanent marker was a lot easier to use on this paper. It's the only colour that I've used that did not rip or pill up the paper whatsoever, and it also works really well as a base just to get the colour to pop, as opposed to the acrylic markers that were even struggling just to work on top of each other. I mean, you can't even see the blue there. And of course, you know, I did have some problems trying to get into the green and the purple pens to work properly. I mean, you can see there the difference. It took a while for the paint to actually flow properly, and after it did, the purple came out so much nicer. And of course the paper itself is like bog standard sketch paper, and once again not suitable for any wet mediums like paint. But other than that, I actually really do love how weird this looks. You know, you've got the proper colours, the raccoon, and then you've got like really weird colourful panels that make no sense. But why stick to the ordinary? Why not just go out and do something totally weird? Alright, and so then that's that. So if you guys are interested in your own Scrawlrbox, I will leave a link in the description box below. So with that said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.